So we've discussed how to add items to a list box. We also need to know how to clear items, and that's using the clear method, where you just write a line of code to clear every item in the list box itself. And the syntax is given here: object.items.clear, and then the brackets. So I mean, this is a syntax that mean in place of object you'll have the name of your list box, like animal list box or department list box or any list box, whichever list box you want to clear. So that, and then dot items, then clear. We've already discussed a little bit about the sorted property. If this property is false, then each item is added at the bottom. If if this property is true, then the item is sorted alphabetically if it's a string, so like A, B, C, D, like that. And if for numbers, if sorted is true, then it's sorted according to whatever is the first, or whatever is the leftmost digit of that number, and in ascending order. So example of that is given at the bottom right. So if I mean the sorted was false, then each string would be added like according to order they were added. So the first one would be at the top, second one would be next, and third one would be at the bottom. But if sorted was true, then it's added alphabetically, meaning that in dictionary order. So inventory is at first, then payroll, then personnel. Since inventory starts with an I, and the rest start with a P, and between payroll and personnel, since the first letter in each word is same, they go to the second letter. And so they say that payroll has an A while personnel has an E, so payroll gets precedence. For numbers, they are sorted as such that, I mean, out of those four, one is at the top, then 1 0, because both of them have the starting digit 1, which has the highest priority, then 2 and 3, and then I mean 1 0, where if both if the leftmost digits are the same, then it starts with the next digit itself. So it's not according to the lowest to the highest numbers. It's according to each digit starting from the leftmost digit and then in ascending order. So now in a list box, we also a lot of times want to access a certain item in a list box, and for that we need an index value for each item. And then once we have an index value, then we can just write the syntax here, the listbox dot items dot the index of the object, and we can select that object. So as an example, we have the listbox animal type, sorry, the string animal type, in which we want to input the first item in the animal list box. So we first initialize the animal type string, and then use convert dot to string animal list box dot items in brackets 0, or in parentheses 0. That means that assign to animal type the first item in the animal list box. Now again, this list box, the first items has an index of 0, not 1. So the first item 0, the second item 1, third item 2, like that. And now the reason why the index is a number, not the name of the item itself, is that a list box can have the same item twice. Like list box technically can have all the items named as dogs or cats. So cat, 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 dog, 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 dog. That is still a valid list box. So I mean, if you have two items with the same name or with the same numbers, then it's not unique anymore. What is unique is their position. So, and again, they start with the position 0. The first item has a position 0. And the second example is pretty similar to the first. The code is assigned the third item in the code list box. Again, when I say 2, that actually means the third item, because the first item has an index 0. So the second item has index 1, the third item has index 2. So I mean, whichever number you have in the index, the position is actually +1 that number. Now there's a handy syntax or a handy line of code which can give you the number of items in a list box, and that's given here, object.items.count. So this count property stores the number of items in a list box, and you can actually use this count property to loop through all the items in a list box. So, and that's done as example 2, that once you have defined num codes and index, then you can assign the number of items in the code list box in num codes using that third line of code in example 2, code listbox.items.count. So num codes has now the number of items in the code list box, and now you can do a while loop and show a message box or loop through a message box which shows you each item in an index. So through that message box dot show code, and here once you show it, you increment the index by 1, and the loop runs until index is equals to the number of codes. So and the reason why it's only and the while loop runs until index is less than number of codes, not less than equals to, is because the number of the index of the final digit or the final item is actually 1 minus the total count, because the index starts from 0, not 1. Now there are handy properties, useful properties, which through which the program can know which item in a list box is currently selected, and selected item and selected index are two such properties which store the items which the user has selected at that moment. So selected item property contains the value of the selected item in the list, or the content of the selected item in the list. If nothing is selected, it contains the empty string. On the other hand, the selected index contains the index of the selected items, like the number of the selected item is 0, 1, 2, 3. If again nothing is selected, it contains -1. And so examples of how these properties can be useful are given. So the first one gives us whichever item is selected in the animal list box. So let's say animal list box has selected dog, and then we can basically assign that item value to a label text called animal label. So once you select an item in the animal list box, this line of code will basically display that same item in the label, animal label. So, and I mean, you can use that to show labels or index numbers in message boxes, code list boxes, and all that. There is also another line of code which is used for the default list box item. So basically, if you have any item selected as the default item, then once the list box starts up, that item will be the one which is highlighted. So here is an example. So if you have animal list box dot selected item equals to cat, then that is now the default list box item. So when the list box pops up, the cat item will be selected. Or you can also use the selected index to choose a selected item. So instead of selected item, if you say assign for the code list box selected index is equals to 2, then the third item in that code list box will be selected. Remember, even though the index 2, the position is the third number, because again index starts with 0. And the code at the bottom right shows you that after we have created the animal list box with 3 items, added items using the while loop to the code list box, we have selected 2 default list box items right at the end or the bottom, where the selected or default item in animal list box is dog, and that in the code list box is the first item since its index is 0. We have gone through several events like the click event, the load event. These are events which we have used to set up event procedures. So now we'll encounter 2 more such events: the selected value changed and the selected index changed events. So these lines of codes within this event procedure run when the list box item is changed. So initially it was some other item, now the user changed it. So when the program senses that, then it runs the lines of code within the event procedure. And here the codes do this. Basically, whenever a value is changed, the top event procedure basically looks at the current selected item using the case selection structure. So the select case convert to string animal list box dot selected item basically looks at what is now the selected item. If the selected item is dog, then the name label shows Rover. If selected item is cat, then the name label shows Fluffy. And if none of these are true, then the name label shows Poco. So basically, once you select an item in the animals list box, it gives you a name for that type of animal. And so similarly, you can also use the selected index changed event to basically do something once the index is changed to something else, once the index of the current list box item is changed. So if once the index is changed, if it's 0, then show personnel. If it's 1, if show payroll. If it's 2, show budget. And if not any of these, then accounting. So basically, if you select if the first item is selected, you show personnel. Second item selected having an index 1, you show payroll. Third item selected, index 2, budget. Or a fourth item selected that falls in the else case, so that's accounting. So each of those codes of Z100, 101, 102, these are like, I guess, department codes, and the label shows you the name of the department. Pretty cool, according to me.